Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the channel. This is Red Dissection and we're gonna break down Manchester United victory, a hard-fought victory against Luton Town at Old Trafford. A scrambling, scrappy 1-0 victory for Manchester United again, while Lindelof's winner in the 59th minute. From a corner, Rashford squared the ball in, and Lindelof was Johnny on the spot with the rebound. But overall, the match was easily forgettable. There was no rhythm to our play. There was no obviously structure to our attacking intent. We were devoid of any ideas in the final third. We kept the ball fine, especially with the centre backs. Both Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof played decently. But in midfield and our forwards were not fighting at all. The few chances we did have, especially with Højlund and Garnacho, they were off the mark. We were certainly lacking sharpness in the final third. With the chances mentioned about Garnacho and Højlund as well as Rashford, those guilted chances, they had to be buried, but we didn't. Obviously, with a slender lead like 1-0, it is always precarious, and we were just holding on by the very end, like we have done usually, because our victories have been with a 1-goal margin, be it 3-2 against Nottingham Forest, or a couple of 1-0s, couple of 2-1s, and this was nothing different. Obviously, Nottingham Forest were poor; they didn't carry much threat, but they had the same number of shots on target like us. Onana made a couple of smart saves, especially from headers by Carter Morris, I think. But overall, their plan was to have low block, relatively low block, and hit us on the counter attack, which they did fine, especially in the second half. But obviously, they lack that kind of quality in the box and around the box. So all the four shots weren't really threatening, and they didn't have a sustained spell of attack against us. They brought on Tai Chong in the second half, and he certainly made a difference. He was dropping deep between the lines and carrying the ball, dribbling through our midfield. So I think they missed a point by not playing or starting with Tai Chong, because he certainly made a difference. Obviously, we dominated the possession. But in terms of dribble, they were more successful. In terms of duels, on ground as well as aerial duels, it was an even contest. I think they lacked a certain level of belief in themselves, and if they had gotten like more men forward and making runs into the box, it could have been more troubling for us. But overall, it was a dull match, a stalemate, and only one scrappy goal was the difference between the two teams. Coming to player ratings, Andre Onana was good. He made a couple of sharp saves from the headers and counterattacks, and his distribution was fine as well. Nothing extraordinary, but a decent job by Onana, and he another clean sheet to his bow. He's got 4 clean sheets now, which is only one less than the joint top in the Premier League. So he seems to have come over the earlier hiccups that he had in his United career, and seems to have settled in well. Diogo Dalot started in the right back position. He was decent on the ball, nothing too threatening from Ogbene on the left hand side. So he was kept quiet by Dalo easily. In terms of his play in the final third, he crossed a couple of lovely balls into the box, but nothing came of it. Obviously, defensively, he's always susceptible to somebody with lots of pace and dribbling ability. But since Luton didn't offer any kind of threat on that flank, it was an easy day out for Dalo. Harry Maguire was easily the man of the match. In his general play, overall he was fine. Defensively, he was a behemoth. I mean, we know that Carter Morris is strong and physically dominant, especially in the air, but Maguire kept him quiet. Obviously, Morris doesn't have the gift of pace, so it was an easy day out for Harry Maguire. He was decent with the ball as well, spraying ball around, few lovely crossfield passes. So a good game for Maguire. Victor Lindelof had a shaky start, wasn't good on the ball. Physically also, he was dislodged a couple of times. Obviously, playing on the left hand side, he struggled initially, but obviously he grew into the match, and certainly being the match winner, he gets 2 extra points for his goal. It was a good finish in the box, sharp finish, and he deserves 6 marks. Much like Dalo, Reguilon wasn't targeted or tested enough by Luton Town. It was an easy day out for him as well. Offensively, he wasn't anything spectacular. He crossed a few balls into the box, but not of adequate quality. Sadly, he's coming back from an injury, so it always takes time. And he was substituted in the second half because he was running out of steam. But a decent performance from Reguilon. Scott McTominay grew into the match as well. He was better in the second half, especially in the second half of the second half. Obviously, his passing is not up to scratch. He's not a deep lying playmaker, and he struggled with that job, especially after Eriksen went off. In terms of his attacking intent, he's always capable of running into the box, also running with the ball. But he didn't provide any kind of goal threat in this match. There weren't any chances on the premium for anybody, let alone a midfielder. So it was an average performance for McTominay. It started off bad, but in the second half it was decent enough. Christian Eriksen is a must in this team because nobody else has the ability to play from that deep lying position. Well, obviously, he's not physically capable of executing that role, certainly against better teams. Against low blocks, he has to play in that team, so he did. He got injured early on in the first half and was substituted for Mason Mount. Nothing to write home about. Nothing exceptional. I would complain about his passing being too slow and pedantic and just sideways. He has the ability in his locker to, spray balls around and give that piercing crossfield passes. But we didn't see much from him, and it was a disappointing performance from Eriksen. Marcus Rashford was the invisible man on the right flank. In the second half, he was shifted to the left flank, and Garnacho was substituted for Anthony. He was a lot more dangerous on the left flank. Made a few runs into the box in the second half. Had a simple chance that he should have scored. He shot on target at least. It was a good save from the keeper, but he certainly lacks confidence. And the things he can do, which he's capable of in terms of pointing and shooting, certainly his lack of confidence is impeding that ability of his. So until he gets few goals or a glut of goals, I don't see him recovering in terms of confidence. Obviously, we know in terms of quality, he's not good enough for Manchester United, but he's not going anywhere anytime soon. So we would like him to have few goals just to, have that boost of confidence and return to his average best. Bruno Fernandes was the worst player on the pitch. He was wasteful in terms of possession, breaking down our own plays, some horrible shoddy passing. Obviously, his shooting is also hit and miss. More often than not, it's a miss nowadays. He didn't get any penalty opportunity to stat pad, but it was a disappointing performance from the captain. He certainly isn't a leader in terms of his persona on the field. Obviously, he lacks leadership skills. That anybody can see that. On the pitch, he's petulant and unruly, and he finds it hard to contain his emotions or to use them constructively. Obviously, he knows his place in the starting lineup isn't threatened. It's not under competition from anybody else, and be it on the left flank, on the right flank, or in the number 10 position, he'll always get a role in Ten Hag's 11. So he has an air about him of invincibility that he's beyond reproach, beyond any kind of criticism, and that you can see in his play as well. So complacent on the ball, and with Ten Hag at the helm, I don't see that changing. So he gets a low score again. Alejandro Garnacho was decent, industrious, decent on the ball, wasn't losing the ball as much, but obviously doesn't have enough quality to produce end product. He had a simple chance which Hoyland provided for him. He should have taken the shot first time, but he dilly-dallied on it, and the defender had enough time to clear the ball. So that was disappointing. I think a goal would have boosted his confidence much more. But he always tries, he works hard, and that's why he gets ahead of Rashford on that flank. He was substituted in the second half. Obviously, he's played few matches on a trot, so he might have run out of steam. And but it was a decent performance for him. It was one of the worst performances of Hoyland. Apart from the Champions League matches, he hasn't shown enough. And I think the fact that he's guaranteed a starting berth in this team says a lot about Ten Hag and his favoritism. He hasn't done well in the Premier League matches at all. He got a gilt-edged chance today from a Rashford cross. He missed open goal, and it was atrocious. You can see that the confidence was fizzling out of him. He's been tardy on the ball. His close control has been shoddy, and even his aerial rules and his physical ability has been on the wane. Maybe he needs a rest. Obviously, he went down with a thigh strain, probably hamstring injury. We have to, investigate how long he may be out for. But he has to improve his game, and in the Premier League, he won't get easier chances that he got today until he gets that first goal to break the ice for him. I think he'll be under increasing and burgeoning pressure. He has to get that first goal, even a scrappy one, just to get his confidence back in front of goal. Mason Mount was an early substitution in the first half for Christian Eriksen. He was irrelevant to the match for the major part of it. In the second half, he did show certain signs that his ability to win the ball and press can be used in this formation, in this setup. But his overall quality is certainly lacking. He certainly doesn't belong in this team, certainly not with the number 7 shirt on his back. But it was a disappointing performance from Mount. Apart from a couple of glimpses of attacking intent and pressing ability, there wasn't much to shout home about. But it was certainly a better performance in terms of what we have seen from him so far. Maybe he needs a sustained run in the team just to get the match fitness. But sadly, there were a lot more questions than answers from Mason Mount. Anthony came on for Garnacho, didn't have much impact on the match, apart from few counter attacks where he did well. He put the ball on the plate for Marcus Rashford to finish, who scored his chance. It was decent in terms of possession. He was also tracking back, but nothing exceptional, nothing to take you out of your seat. His confidence certainly has taken a knock because he has been thrown out of the first 11. Let's just wait and see how he recovers from that blow, and given a chance in the starting lineup, or how does he fare. And there are certainly some other fixtures coming up against Everton and Galatasaray. We'll definitely see if he can come back to his best, certainly to the levels that he showed in the last season. He needs to obviously be more threatening in terms of goal, and obviously use his right peg, which he doesn't. But let's wait and see if he can restore his partnership with Aaron and Saka, and get some confidence back in his legs. Anthony Martial was brought on late. It didn't have much impact. Few good runs, few good touches, especially on the flank. Obviously, he doesn't have the kind of burst of speed that he used to have. So he suddenly has lost his edge, his sharpness, and he also is lacking in confidence because he hasn't scored many goals. So I like to see him start with Hoyland, just to have the kind of support for Rise with Hoyland, because Marshall is good at slipping balls through for a fast striker. So it'd be interesting if Ten Hag mends his ways and drops his ego and actually starts the two together. So let's wait and see after the international break. While Varane came on late in the second half, not a lot to do for him because the Luton weren't threatening as much. Obviously, there were a few set pieces right at the fag end of the match, but there was no trouble at all, no skirmishes. So it was a decent outing for Varane. He certainly doesn't look like that he's playing for the manager. He certainly lacks the kind of intimate relationship that he seemed to have with the fans and the club and even the manager last season. And the recent issues have certainly seems to have spoiled the relationship. And I just don't see at his age any kind of return from him. And he might soon be off, maybe in the winter transfer window or certainly next year in the summer transfer window. Another disappointing outing from Erik Ten Hag. All of his decisions seems to be based on expediency than any kind of long-term philosophy of future or vision for the club or for the way that we want to play. There is no onus on playing attacking attractive football. He seemed to have completely given up on playing any kind of entertaining football. Obviously, at this time, it's all about result because his job is certainly under the scanner and is certainly jeopardized. Obviously, we might go out of the Champions League just after the international break, so it remains to be seen whether the board or the quote unquote new owners would be more amenable to his position. But we'll wait and see. But it was another disappointing performance from Ten Hag. With Newcastle and Tottenham both suffering unexpected losses, United are nestled in comfortably in the top six. Though Brighton and Aston Villa both have to play the matches on Sunday. The performances have been so disappointing, and there are litanies of issues both with the manager and the players that I don't see it being sustainable. Certainly with these kind of horrific, insipid performances, and with tough fixtures coming up after the international break. Against Everton, against Newcastle, in the Champions League, against Galatasaray. It remains to be seen how long can Ten Hag hold on to the reins at Old Trafford. I think to a degree we have been helped by the fact that the teams around us haven't been that consistent. City and Arsenal have suffered losses recently, so the gap that they should have gotten till now has been reduced considerably. And I think this is a false position for Manchester United. I mean, most of the matches that we have won, we didn't deserve to. At least half of them were either losses deservedly or at least draws. But the table doesn't lie, and we are, in terms of our last five performances, we are top of the form table, and there's certainly some grit in this team. I think a lot of credit has to be given to our defensive setup in terms of the keeper who's settled in well now. Harry Maguire has certainly been a man of the match in the most of the matches this month. I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka coming back into the team has given us more solidity in terms of our defensive makeup. Dalo has played well in the left back position. Lindelof and Johnny Evans have done decently well. Obviously, Varane has been absent. So a lot of the credit has to go to our defensive lineup, because we have been winning by an odd goal, 2-1 or 1-0. So a lot of praise has to be reserved for the defenders and our back five. Notwithstanding this scrappy victory in the Premier League, the performances are unsustainable. The play style is unacceptable. The position of the manager is untenable, and the cowardice of these owners is unconscionable. No matter how much papering is done over these cracks, we are not going to have any stability, any kind of stable attempt at prolonged success until the root cause are eliminated. The rot that has set in from the top has to be remedied if we are to get back anywhere near to the success of the old. It goes without saying that anything other than a full sale would be taking the mick out of the fans and all the protests that have happened. The acrimony of the last decade has been too intense. It's too deep just to be swayed by some puff PR pieces, either for the Glazers or for their cousin Jim. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, when there is some official announcement from the club. The manager for now isn't going anywhere. The players certainly are not going anywhere. The owners seem to be digging their heels as well. But the clock is ticking. I think the elimination from the Champions League, the recent elimination from the Carabao Cup, and few away losses in the next few matches could spell doom for Ten Hag. I think his position is beyond the pale already, because even after 15 months, we haven't seen any kind of change in terms of a philosophy or style of play. There is no imprint of Ten Hag on this team. It seems to be same old, irrespective of the manager and irrespective of whatever the era may be. With that said, we'll try to recover in the international break and come back stronger with a bit more confidence. Meanwhile, we'll continue with the career mode in the EAFC series. Please join us for that. So until then, take care, do good, pray for Palestine and all the people who are being oppressed. Assalamu alaikum.